the keynote speech by Thomas Zurbuchen, Professor for Space Sciences and Technologies here at the ETH Zurich. Professor Zurbuchen is a leading figure in scientific research and innovation, with a career spanning space exploration and advanced technologies. His expertise is vital in understanding the central role that scientific research and innovation play in reducing global poverty and addressing global risks. In particular, Professor Zurbuchen will share his insights on how scientific research can accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, offering new discoveries and science-based recommendations to tackle global challenges. We will have 10 minutes for a Q&A session after his speech, and I encourage you to use Slido for that. Thank you for being here with us, Professor. The floor is yours.
I'm really excited to be here with you. I like this room. Some of my best hours I've had were in this room, talking to some of the students, some of the faculty, and also children who came here to ETH. Hopefully people who will be change agents and innovators for the future. What I'm going to do is talk about innovation, and I just want to talk about why I'm doing this. You should know that I listened to some of the talks and some of the panels online as I went here, and I'm sure you feel the same way. As you listen to the panels, the more you learn, for example, about the challenges on different continents, about the challenges we have, about challenges that we make from scratch, all by ourselves, and sometimes in countries we think we have overcome certain things. We go back to things we have overcome. When all these challenges happen, the question is, what can I do about it? What can we do about these challenges? And that's the context I'm going to give. And the challenge is, the answer to that is one that I learned in a field that has very little to do today with Africa. It has a lot to do when we look at the data that we're providing, or, for example, weather forecasts from commercial companies in Africa where there were no weather forecasts. Today, things where we can jump over infrastructure investments and kind of bring people online, bring people into the marketplace where that was not possible. But what I want to talk about is much smaller. And that is a sense of optimism that I've gained in missions that sound and feel really differently than many of you have talked about. And so basically the sense of optimism is quite simply the following. If people really truly come together behind the same vision, with the right attitude in a team that has all stakeholders, miracles can in fact happen. When I talk about miracles, I don't do it in a religious sense. A miracle is something to me that looks impossible, and we can solve the problem. So miracles can in fact happen with these three ingredients: the right attitude of people, the teams that are built the right way, and the community that has all the stakeholders in them. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Now, to get you into the right mood, here is what it takes first of all, it would be really great if this worked. It worked. So I need to point over there. This is what it takes to get rid of some of the most important limitations that we've all faced. That is to get out of gravity. Here's how one of those miracles looks.
The Perseverance rover headed to Mars, ready to ride a column of fire and smoke on its way to the red planet.
And liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of robotic explorers to the red planet.
And Atlas TU has gone to closed loop control, standing by for SRB burnout shortly. And we have successful separation of Mars 2020 with the Perseverance rover.
We now have an acquisition of signals and the years of blood, sweat, and tears from every person who worked on this mission is now realized as Perseverance makes its way to Mars.
You've picked up the name of the mission. It's a name that I gave this mission, and it came from a series of experiences I had, and that is the most important part of an attempt of a solution and an actual solution is perseverance. It is sticking with it and not backing off. Now, as we start about the attitude that relates to solving problems, basically what I really want to talk about first is the role of innovation in our work. Innovation, the way I define it here, is kind of finding new solutions that have not been here yet and making them come to life. Innovation, as opposed to just invention, is a solution, is an invention that has purpose. An innovation is an invention that has true value, for other people. And basically the one question that we can ask, of course, in our daily activities, and of course many of you are in a university community here or there, I just want to ask, is innovation in the work that you do, in the work that I see myself, the icing or the cake? This is a Schwarzwälder Torte von Sprungli. I like it. There's many others in Switzerland who are equally good, I'm sure. But so you could take the icing off, and it's still a really good torte. But icing is not really why you buy this. Icing is an addition at the end of what you do. And for me, the attitude of innovators, of the ones that want to change big things, they recognize that the most important solutions are still out to be discovered. And therefore, their day, each day, is full, or it has parts of questioning the status quo and addressing innovation. I always say it's very easy to figure out what you care about. Show me your calendar and I'll tell you. Where are you spending time? For me, my attitude, and frankly, by the way, this is something that I'm still growing every day. I need to carve out time for thinking, for finding big problems and so forth. It's not something that the student needs to learn and it's one and done. Really, when I make this, when I think about this, I want to talk about this as a growth opportunity for all of us. The attitude of innovators is something that is there with us. You saw the launch of this vehicle, which is the Perseverance rover. You see in the back the helicopter. The question was, do we just do the rover? Do we do the helicopter with it? And of course, the helicopter is a flimsy thing. It almost doesn't work. The atmosphere of Mars is 1% of that of the Earth. And the question is it worth trying that? I remember when I came to my work at NASA, within the first months, the head of NASA told me, kill the helicopter. It's just icing on the cake. And what I said is what he really meant to say, don't embarrass me. And I said, I will not embarrass you. And I worked with the people, and of course the reason he worried so much is the helicopter hangs from the bottom of the rover and is flimsy, it needs to go there. The worst that can happen is that you add the helicopter and you destroy the rover. So kind of another way of saying you never want the tail to wag the dog. Right? So basically, the question is, how do we innovate the right way? The deployment mechanism was absolutely critical. For me, the reason this worked and the reason you saw the helicopter up on there is because of the attitude of this person. She was a refugee from Malaysia. Mimi Yang took this team, this innovative idea of the helicopter, and built a team together with basically no fear. I mean, again, everybody believed, including the head of NASA, we couldn't do this. Once I met her and once I talked to her, it's like she can make it happen. Because I really do believe at the end, the attitude of individuals matter. Of course, I cannot tell you the whole story. What you should see is this is a a movie or a series of pictures done by the helicopter as the helicopter is flying over an area that a rover can never get to because it will get stuck in these dunes up there. The attitude, that kind of blood of innovation in that person bringing together a team is what made that happen. I mean, it's not me. All I said is at the end, fly it, because it works. But the point is, it's this kind of attitude that really matters. We designed it for only 3 flights. Sorry, I apologize. We designed it for 4 flights. After the first trip, it took 71 and had all these records up there. Here's when it crashed. 72 flights. By the way, the engines that turned that are Swiss engines from a company called Maxon Motor, since I'm in advertisement here, apparently. And when it crashed, a lot of journalists talked about the disaster of the helicopter crashing on Mars. I was like, you don't know what disaster is. Disaster is not trying. It's not failing after 72 flights if you designed for 4. Disaster is not trying. And so for me, when I talk about innovation as the core of thinking, I really think about that being part of your days. Innovation makes uncomfortable. It's messy, it can be chaotic. Innovation and iteration always go together. I use the word iteration, not failure, but that's what I really mean. It won't work the first time. And frankly, innovation takes a unique mix of drive to action and patience. It's urgently important to innovate today, but you have to have the patience to wait for the result. That's what I mean with that. And for me, that's the attitude we can practice. We can get better. I don't care what age we have. We can get better every day. That's about the personal attitude. The next thing I want to talk about is a team. At the heart, I talked about Mimi Young. If Mimi Young was here, she would have jumped up and said, I did not do this alone, my team did this. Because she's the right kind of leader. At the center of big solutions, whether they're on Mars, here in Switzerland, anywhere on Earth, on the continent of Africa, the core of any solution is a team. Different ideas come together behind one goal to find the best solution. Here's one of the things that's important for us. We don't want to work on our best solution. We want to work on the best solution. And that means sometimes that it's not ours that matters, but a team is coming together and build a culture of innovation. A culture is kind of a word that's a fuzzy word, and so it kind of got really popular in business schools something like 20 years ago. There's new studies that kind of talk about culture as kind of a major differentiator in organizations. And I could talk about the definition, but here's the simple way of figuring that out. My kid is looking for a job right now. Here's how I figure out the culture in your organization. Like in your organization that you build, what does my kid have to do to be successful there? Then listen really carefully. Work hard, never fail. That could be a culture. By the way, it's a culture for many organizations. Never fail. Perfection is what you're about. Learn really hard. We don't need new ideas. We already have the good ideas. It could be that the environment is we want him to learn. We want him, after a while, to start bringing in ideas. We want him to work on these ideas, and if once he fails or so, it doesn't matter. We want him to be part of that idea culture. The culture that we build depends on many different factors. I'm not going to talk on all of them. Many people say culture is given. I don't believe in that at all. Culture is made. In every organization, in every leadership team, culture radiates from the top. The research that says what culture is about says between 70 and 80% of the influence of a culture is leadership. Here's what I mean with that. When my kid or somebody else comes to my team and tries something and fails, leadership is what we're doing next. I could scream at him. It's like, disappear, what the hell did you do? You're dumb. The good news is, everybody thinks I'm a strong leader for 5 seconds. The bad news is you'll not get new ideas from your team for quite a while. Leadership is aligning what we want in the culture in our feedback. It's also how we engage our people. I already talked. Innovative teams, the ones that I really care about are the ones where people, all the people feel we are part of this. Aligned rewards. Rewards are not just for perfection goals. We need, and so, by the way, when I fly on an airplane, I want perfection. So I don't want an innovators like, I wonder whether we can fly upside down. So my point is not everything is the same in each one of these, but especially in ambiguous problems that are really complicated. Rewards have to not just be coming from financial rewards, for example, but from other type of for goals that we have, stories that we're talking. Also, who do we bring to the table? Certain things I would never compromise on in my team. If you have any ethics problems, you're in the wrong place. I will not compromise on that. Literally, also not one warning first. This is kind of, but every team has to figure out how they're working. And of course, how you deal in a small group is really different than how we build a big team. And I really do believe the problems that we're talking about here are about big teams. So they require big teams with broad alignments and big diversity of backgrounds. Otherwise, we don't have the solutions in our capacity set that is in our team. A distributed decision process. It's not just, there's a decision process, by the way. So we're not just talking. We're making decisions, but it requires that multiple voices are being heard and focus and resilience with people issues and with politics. So so the point is, there are multiple dimensions that come to bear that are not there in a small team, like a startup or a single professor research group. But it's something that big teams can do in a very direct fashion and solving issues of the type that are there. I could tell you many stories, including where I worked in a previous place where by a simple incentive shift, we tripled the number of startups, especially in non-for-profit startups. Because we basically said we care about people who solve problems, broad problems. A single incentive for every faculty that we put in there. We didn't even force that they can do it. We said we care about this. All of a sudden we had a faculty that got tenure because they developed surgical tools that are useful, not in the best hospitals, the 10 best hospitals on earth, but in the thousands that help millions, if not billions, of people in the developing world. So for me, incentives really matter as it is. I used innovation as a community. I used a chart that I got off the website from the entrepreneurship program. I don't know what the chart is that works for you. But my point is you have to know who the people are who are part of you. And again, it's really critical that innovation at the end, at the community level, is the one that matters. Again, it's not just a team that I control, it's a community overall where people come together, people who are students who learn how to be innovators, people who are perhaps at the far side of their careers and bring back experiences, and everybody in between, especially people for whom the innovations are designed. They need to be part of that. You cannot innovate in a university like ours here, some of the best solutions, then toss them over without the engagement of that community on the other side. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in space. It doesn't work that way on the ground. Innovation as a community also required that innovation is matched with funding, with money, whether it's from the government, whether it's from angel and venture funds and other places. You already talked about that in a previous session, so I'm not going to spend too much time. That's really an issue that matters. Money that has the same values that we have as innovators is really critical as we go forward. So Innovation as a community, I'll go back to my beginning. Innovation as a community has huge hurdles, and I just want to show you one of the hurdles before I get off the stage and leave the stage for back to the core of this important conference. And that is, when you go to Mars, you saw people take off from Mars. Landing on Mars is one of the hardest things you can do. You have to prepare for it. You have to do it with 5,000-6,000 people in a team like this. You cannot do it otherwise. It's so hard because the atmosphere is so thin that you cannot use the atmosphere like a parachute. You know, you can jump off a plane and land just with a parachute. Some of you may have done it here on Earth. You can't do that on Mars. Only once. So what you need to do is you come in, and then at the end, you need to actually let yourself down. And kind of for me, remember what my message is. If you bring together the right attitude, whether it's me and others, if you learn how to build teams with the diversity that it takes to create a great team, with the values, with the leadership, with the culture, and if you learn how to bring multiple teams together into a community, you can in fact create miracles, such as landing on Mars. You should see, by the way, the landing here is during COVID times. The team that is landing on Mars has not been in the same room for 2 years because they had to sit at home. And you see many people who are actually part of the team were at home during this. So kind of for me, all I want you to think about is, what can we do as a community if we come together behind that one goal? Here's what I did.
Propulsion, go. EDL phase lead, go.
We have deemed Perseverance ready to execute entry, descent, and landing on her own.
Confirmation of entry interface. Perseverance is currently going 5.3 kilometers per second, about 120 kilometers from the surface of Mars. It will start controlling its path to the landing target. Parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration. The heat shield has been separated. Perseverance now has radar lock on the ground. The back shell has separated. Skycam maneuver has started, about 20 meters off the surface.
Tango Delta, nominal.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Zurbuchen. We are very glad to have 10 more minutes with you, and thank you for your participations with your questions. I'm sure we have many questions, so let's see what has come so far.
No.
They don't see the questions.
Oh, okay.
So would you like to start with the first one? Would you
Okay.
like to, yeah?
So the first question is a question that relates to many of the space assets that are there that are currently commercial in nature. And the question is, should Starlink and SpaceX be controlled by a single individual who can turn off the system based on a private interest and political preferences? And the answer, of course, has to be no. For what it's worth, Starlink, in this case, was actually designed not because somebody wanted to do that. It was designed because Elon Musk, who's a complicated character, and it gets more complicated every day, Elon Musk's goal, and from the beginning, was I want to make humanity multiplanetary. That is his goal. For that, he needs to build many rockets, because otherwise the rockets are too expensive for a rocket. And when I was at NASA, of course, we benefited from that. During the time I was at NASA, the rocket cost went down a factor of 2 almost. So a science mission that I cared about, for example, for weather forecasts worldwide, to put that up in space, cost half the money to do that. So he, because he did not have enough payloads, after 2 years he cleaned out all the payloads on every shelf on Earth. He basically said, I'll build my own space mission. And that's a space mission I personally had worked on before, because I really felt I actually had worked at the University of Michigan on connecting hospitals in Africa to the internet, to kind of provide information for doctors and for healthcare officials for that. We worked with Google and did that. It was absolutely clear we needed a different solution. We needed a multi-spacecraft solution. I worked on that. We created that solution, as did others. And the answer was you need something between 5,000 and 10,000 spacecraft. I thought that will never happen in my lifetime. The answer is it took 10 years. And because of that, the intent was not control over Earth. The intent was to solve that other problem. Nonetheless, what happened is exactly that. All of a sudden, the control that he had as a private company started interfering with basically political goals. And of course, what needs to happen is that the discussion is occurring both at the national and the international level to kind of take those assets and make them useful. At the beginning, some of this stuff was quite scary. I'm less worried now because the integration is there. Well, perhaps I'm worried more again. I don't know. But by the way, a lot of it is not clear. Kind of to anybody who's really in the system, it just hasn't settled yet. It's just a little bit chaotic. That happens more often in the US than in Switzerland. I was just saying, it also happens in Switzerland, right? A day of chaos. It can happen too, yeah, like yesterday. But you know, it happens in the best of all worlds. My hope is that these kind of technologies, especially as there's competition, will really provide the solutions that we all wanted, because that's why we were invited. That's why we're innovating on it. That's why I worked on it, not because of world dominance or some other goal. Why don't you pick a better one?
Okay, we'll avoid the one with Elon Musk, if you
We already
agree.
talked about
Okay.
Elon.
Yeah.
Very complicated person. Genius, thin-skinned. Yeah.
Citizens are losing faith in innovation, and as such as new counter-political movements led by leaders such as Trump are rising globally, led by technocrats. How do we address this?
Yeah, it's really, for me, one of the things, and I know ETH is really worried about this, as are other universities, really want to make sure that the people who develop technologies think about the other aspects of technologies, not just the technologies themselves. For example, the mission that I just showed for Mars, we actually tried really hard to make as clean as possible. Why? Because we don't want to destroy a science experiment for future generations to come. Mm-hmm. So we're cleaning it as much as we can, even though nobody sees that. We're putting a lot of effort in it to clean it, because it's the right thing to do to preserve the environment. We did many other things like this. So what happens, of course, especially the big company innovation, I think that's the innovation that is being referred to in this question, where citizens are losing faith in innovation, is when kind of innovation kind of moves out of its realm and kind of starts encompassing kind of other realms that without kind of proper consideration. In this case, whether it's like take AI. It's a really complicated, kind of innovative field, like one that has enormous potential, positive potential, but also has a flip side that is there. And I think what is really critical and part of the goal of university is that we communicate these kind of challenges that are there and that kind of allow citizens to know before we hit the hurdle that it's there. Nonetheless, I just want to make one more statement. Many of the problems that we're talking about are problems that, frankly, my personal feeling is the only way to solve them is through innovation. Right? So kind of innovation has the flip side that is challenging. Like social media, I thought was the most amazing things. I used to have letter friends in different parts of the world. I wrote letters to this woman from Argentina I never met, but I learned about her life there because somebody matched us in some kind of thing in school. I thought that was wonderful. I always thought about Argentina through the eyes of Christina, right? And so I thought social media is that. It brings together people. It did that, but it did other things that has huge consequences. My kids are late teenagers, are in their early 20s now. I mean, we know it has affected many, especially young women, in a fact that is really quite bad. I would deal with social media today differently than when I did when she was little, my daughter, right? Kind of because I learned about the negative sense. So kind of my point is, all innovations, everything that's human-made has both elements, and we need to watch it, we need to learn about it, not only the ones who do it, but the ones who use it, and kind of learn about it and kind of evolve in our regulatory environment, but also in our use in a way that maximizes the value and minimizes the damage that comes from it.
Thank you very much. We do have time for one more question. So we have Mars, we have change management, we have China.
Change management.
Change management.
I don't know what you want to talk about. China has made enormous progress in space. It's also very active in Africa in many different areas. Kind of many of the programs in space in Africa are not only supported by China, but all staff in Africa are Chinese. I don't know whether that's the success people have imagined there, but those are the challenges, and kind of the only thing that I would hope is that other countries, including from Europe, are also reaching out. Some of them have, and that's a good thing, because I think at the end we all need to kind of bring solutions to that continent the best way we know how. And certainly there's good stuff that's also coming from China. About change management, but the question is, should we take the team along or restructure, also fire people? And I want to tell you how I do this, generally speaking. I come into a team, I did that at NASA, I did that kind of everywhere I come in, and my assumption is we have great people. In every case. Frankly, when I went to NASA, there were a few kind of HR processes working against some of the people there. I took all of them in a room. It's like we're starting at zero. You have a chance to prove yourself. I will set clear expectations, really use the right processes. My full expectation is that it will work. Now, there are a number of people where there were HR processes against them, and we were on the way out that turned out to be super performers. And there were a few people, but that did not. They were back in that ditch later on because, frankly, they were a load on the team. And for me, empathy is not just about the person who works or doesn't work, it's about the whole team. So kind of for me, like often we have empathy, it's like we need to make a hard decision, kind of moving somebody out of a team, empathy is important for any leader. We should worry about that. And most of my sleepless nights at NASA were people issues of that type. I just want to say we should also have empathy of all the other team members that need to do extra work because that person is not pulling their weight. And for me, kind of really understanding that and communicating that, giving all the chances, every once in a while, you end up at the change. My experience is I've never managed to get 100% in a team, in a change management environment. So there are a few people that need to go, but they select themselves. In many cases, I found them the jobs that they wanted. So there's like 20% or so, they were unhappy when everything was done, but all the others, a number of people told me they're happier where they are now because frankly, I don't believe that the vast majority of people are not successful because they're bad people. I think they're not successful because they're at the wrong time or at the wrong place. And we need to bring them at the right place where they can be successful. And kind of learning about the person and then finding the right environment will make them successful in many cases. And so that's what we should focus on, even when we need to make a hard decision, which is unfortunately what leaders at times have to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you. It was very inspiring. Thank you, and also thank you for your participation and your questions.